Okay.
Karen and Richard, okay? Because we don't need to be
Our
seen.
camera
and mute.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to. We don't need to be seen by everybody through the whole service. Just when we're doing something. Does that make sense?
And Sammy Tweedy.
It hasn't gone live yet. It will.
Okay, friends, we're
Hi,
live
it hasn't
now.
gone live yet. It will any minute. Okay.
We're live. We're live right now.
Yeah.
Bim bam bim 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 bam bim 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 bam chiri biri biri bim bam bim 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 bam bim 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 bam Shabbat shalom Shabbat shalom Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat 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 Shalom. Bim bam bim 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 bam. Bim 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 bam. Bim bam bim 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 bam. Bim 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 bam. la 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 la, ya la la ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la ya la 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 la, ya la la ya la 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 la, ya la la ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Cantor Friedman.
Rabbi Marantz.
That was an opening slideshow.
That was something.
Hope you like the musical backdrop I laid over that.
It was very nice.
It's like on YouTube for posterity.
Right.
Well done, dear tech captains. We are here tonight, and it's really beautiful. I see that not only are you here with us, Cantor Friedman, but we have Rob Moss and Harry Warnar, our newest tech captain. So, dear tech captains, pleased to have you. Hope you're having fun so far. And we have Joy Getzenberg on tonight to read a little Torah, chant probably a little Torah, and Joy's brother Richard, and Richard's spouse, Karen. It sounds like a question.
No, that was right.
Okay, so good. I'm glad I got the right introduction in play. And I think we're ready to go. Shabbat Shalom to Kulam, a Sabbath of peace to one and all. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Shabbat, on a beautiful day.
All right. We are thrilled that Karen and Richard are joining us, and we're going to invite them, please, to light their candles. And when they are ready, to please say the Shabbat blessing after those candles are lit.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshon b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbos.
Amen. Thank you so very much.
Cantor, we learned a word tonight. I think Joy shared it with us, mellifluous. So Richard and Karen, that was mellifluous.
It's a very good SAT word indeed.
As we say, kol hakavod, all our respect. Glad you're helping us out tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rabbi, the ADL has deemed this Shabbat to be Refugee Shabbat. And so before we join together in the fruit of the vine, which makes our day not just sacred and special, but sweet, a reading. We lift this cup with words remembering our ancestors' exodus from Egypt on our lips, Zecher L'Tziat Mitzrayim. As we recall that ancient journey from slavery to freedom, we think also of the many times throughout history that our people have wandered in search of safety, from Tsarist Russia to the horrors of the Holocaust, to persecution in Iran, the former Soviet Union, Cuba, Ethiopia, and beyond. Time and time again, we found ourselves forced out of our homelands for being who we are. But each time we were held together by community and assisted by those who risked their safety in protection of ours. We continued to survive against all odds as our hearts grew to hold others who would come to experience what we had. We fill our Kiddush cup to overflowing, hoping that the joy of Shabbat will spread into the week to come. And so it is as we welcome refugees and asylum seekers into our communities today. Recalling our exodus from Egypt, the Torah tells us, "You know the soul of the stranger." While our responsibility to protect the rights of refugees and asylum seekers does not derive from our experience in Egypt, that experience does amplify our obligation to welcome. May our commitment to welcome fill to overflowing, just as our Kiddush cup does, leading us to take bold action in support of refugees and asylum seekers from every corner of the earth. Just as the Jewish people have thrived, so too do today's refugees of all faiths and ethnicities thrive as they rebuild their lives and become part of their new communities. We lift this cup with the words remembering the ingenuity of creation on our lips. Zichron lema'aseh v'reshit. We continue creating and repairing the world as we build our communities on the collective strength of each individual, remembering that we are stronger and strongest when we come together. We invite you to rise, as is your custom for Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit. Ki hu yom tehila lemikra kodesh, zecher letziat mitzrayim. Ki vanu vaharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim. V'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinhaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. L'chaim.
L'chaim. Cantor, kol kavod to you and the ADL for raising awareness in this moment about refugees and our responsibility with respect to these refugees, and what an important time in the Jewish calendar to consider our responsibilities today and going forward. And I'm hoping to touch upon some of these responsibilities as we review the holiday cycle, at least parts of the holiday cycle that Kitisa, Shabbat Kitisa summons for us to consider. And of course, we cannot think about our holy days and the spiritual DNA that these holy days infuse in us. We cannot forget moments of Yetziat Mitzrayim, our exodus from Egypt, which have built in us in this spiritual DNA a compassion and empathy for anybody who is forced out because of oppression or other concerns. And I hope that we'll continue the conversation, not only through the Devar Torah tonight, but tomorrow as well, to give a full-throated, fully passionate, completely compassionate appeal to us to always feel the empathy that our ancestors felt for one another, for other refugees. This is our legacy. And so what a beautiful reading, beautiful Iyun Tefillah before Kiddush. And thank you. And stay tuned, everybody. Join us, not only for the Devar Torah but today, but tomorrow as well.
Let's do this one. Lehadodi lekrat kala la 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 v'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lehadodi lekrat kala la 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 v'nei Shabbat nekabela. שמור וזכור בדבר אחד השמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד השמיענו אל ולתפארת והתהילה לך דודי לקראת קלה לה 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 פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה לה 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 פני שבת נקבלה
We are ready, feeling fully welcomed and prepared. We rise in body and or spirit, and we call ourselves into worship, into our public prayer. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Continuing from Mishkan Tefillah. Ever living God, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars testify to the power of your wisdom. Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish from our sight. But your sovereignty endures. Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from our lives. Help us to become co-workers with you and fill our days with abiding worth. Baruch atah Adonai HaMa'ariv Aravim. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean to struggle for me as well? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me, lead us all into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Harry, perfect, thank you. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto לעולם ועד. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך ובביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Speaking of Jewish holy days, the Hashkivenu, because we pray for a Sukkot Shalom, a Sukkah of peace, inevitably reminds us of one of our key festivals, our fall festival of Sukkot. And as I will demonstrate, Sukkot is something that we think about during Parshat Ki Tisa, namely because of the golden calf. And I will also try to demonstrate the connection there, even though Sukkot is far away. The truth is, there is a holy day, another festival that is unbelievably not that far away, and that is Pesach. And by the way, Ki Tisa links us to that as well. But I digress slightly. Let's get back to the Sukkot Shalom, the Sukkah of peace, and the Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom, L'shalom, B'hamidenu Shomrenu L'chayim. Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha, Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 Amen.
We invite you to rise in body or spirit for the tefillah. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, v'Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei HaKol, v'Zocher Hasdei Avot v'Imahot, u'mevii Geula livnei v'neihem, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מחכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גברות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיי, ומצמיח ישוע. ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים היום יעלוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
How about a moment or two for silent reflections? Please take your time.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amha Tasim Leolam. Ki atchem melech Adon leho hashalom. Ki atchem melech Adon leho hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Seder Kriyat Torah l'Shabbat, the order for reading of Torah on Shabbat. The rabbi and I are beyond delighted to have Joy Getzenberg, a friend, part of our Emmanuel family, who so ably chants Torah at a few choice times in the year, always in memoriam. Well, not always, but many, many times in memoriam. And I can't think of a better way of honoring the people you love. So thank you, Joy, and thank you, Richard, for that honor, and Karen as well. We'll begin with the Shema, and then we will press Richard and Karen into service. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Okay, Richard and Karen.
Baruch Hu es Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol hamim. V'nosan lanu es toraso. Baruch atah Adonai nosein haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayomer Adonai El Moshe V'salecha Shnei Luchot Avanim Korishonim V'chatavti Al Haluchot Et Hadvarim Asher Hayu Al Haluchot Harishanim Asher Shibarta V'hiye Nachon Laboker Ve'alita Vaboker El Har Sinai V'nitzavta Li Sham Al Rosh Hahar Ve'ish Lo Ya'aleh Imach V'gam Ish Al Yerah V'chal Hahar Gam Hatzon V'habakar Al Yeru El Mu Hahar Hahu Vayifsol Shnei Luchot Avani Korishani Vayashkem Moshe Vaboker Vaya'al El Har Sinai Ka'asher Tziva Adonai Oto Vayikach Beyado Shnei Luchot Avani.
And then we'll go back to the slides. Thank you for the English.
The Lord said to Moses, "Carve 2 tablets of stone like the first, and I will inscribe upon the tablets the words that were on the first tablets, which you shattered. Be ready by morning, and in the morning come up to Mount Sinai, and present yourself there to me on top of the mountain." No one else shall come up with you, and no one else shall be seen anywhere on the mountain. Neither shall the flocks and the herds graze at the foot of this mountain. So Moses carved 2 tablets of stone, like the first, and early in the morning he went up on Mount Sinai, as the Lord had commanded him, taking the 2 stone tablets with him.
That was absolutely gorgeous. Kol HaKavod, Joy. And we invite your brother and sister-in-law, Richard Weber and Karen Lang, for the blessing after the reading of Torah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher nosan lanu Torah emes, v'chayil lanu tabesochinu. Baruch atah Adonai nosein Torah.
Amen. I'm sure Beverly and Nathan are kvelling.
Zichronam levacha. Kol hakavod lekulam. Thank you, Joy and family, for helping us and leading us in our Torah service. And of course, Cantor, thank you for your soulful presence. A word of Torah. Chevre, Kitisa is a compelling Torah portion for many reasons, but I find it quite useful as an introduction to Jewish holidays. That is because Kitisa connects a number of books of Torah and what they reflect about the spiritual DNA of our Jewish calendar and how we celebrate it and how we make it matter and how we find intentionality to carry into our lives, to make a difference, to be a force for good. So we usually think of Kitisa because of the golden calf episode, which I'll review in a moment. But suffice it to say here that our experience with the golden calf sets us up to understand our chagim, our holy days. To get us started, though, I turn to the book of Leviticus and God's instruction in chapter 23, verses 42 through 43. Here we find the following instruction. You shall live in booths, Sukkot, 7 days. All citizens of Israel shall live in booths, so future generations will know that I made the children of Israel live in booths when I brought them out of Egypt. Now, one might think here that citizenship conveys a sense of class and status. But here, all people, regardless of class and status, regardless of material possession, all are linked to Egyptian slavery, present, future. As if we are living in the past. It is all there for us to witness. And of course, this sensibility is so central to how we conceive of Passover, which is coming. And of course, this requirement to dwell in booths not only reminds us of Sukkot, but it also helps us recall our ancestors' exodus from Egypt and God's role in redeeming them. All as a reminder of the legacy of freedom that is not only theirs, but ours as well. A freedom from materialism, a freedom from idolatry, a freedom of faith, a freedom to live the mitzvot, a freedom to act with menschlichkeit, a freedom to heal the world. And given that this is Refugee Shabbat, a freedom to free the captive, and a responsibility, and a freedom ultimately, and a responsibility. There's a theme here. Our freedom is about freedom to be responsible, a responsibility to, in fact, remember that we were strangers in the land of Egypt. We were slaves, we were refugees. As such, we have a built-in compassion, a built-in empathy, the capacity to understand what it must feel like to be a slave, what it must feel like to be a refugee, what it must feel like to be an immigrant, what it must feel like to be a stranger in a strange land, or not even to be invited in the first place. We know deeply what that feels like, and therefore possess a responsibility to be present in the work of welcome, in the work of treating everybody as though they are created b'tselem Elohim, in God's image, and honoring the freedom and the security and safety of all of God's creatures. So, getting back to the specific books of Torah, if we think about it, the Exodus draws us into Sefer Shemot, the book of Exodus, and not only in terms of Yetziat Mitzrayim, the exodus from Egypt, and not only as a basis for both Sukkot and Pesach, but also Sinai, or Sinai, and Matan Torah, the original Shavuot experience. It's in Parshat Ki Tisa and the context of the golden calf that Moses actually comes down from the mountain with the luchot that Joy chanted about. The luchot are the tablets. And that is indeed a powerful moment, complicated, of course, by the fact that Moshe sees the people dancing around the golden calf. And this scene fills him with anger. He is irate with the idolatry. He is irate with their lack of faith, with their absence of menschlichkeit. And what does he do? He smashes the tablets. By the way, it's not recommended on Shavuot, in our experience, to throw the luchot on the ground and smash them. In response, and the reason why I believe this, or maybe even know this, is because God's not so happy with Moses for slamming the luchot to the ground. This is not a proper way to celebrate Shavuot. God is furious, and God refuses to replace the broken luchot, the broken tablets. So what does Moses have to do? Well, something that may be even more important in the end, as a way of really capturing the power of Sinai and the power of the luchot and the power of Matan Torah. We are commanded, everybody's commanded to do their part to write a Torah in their lifetime. Have you done it yet? Sounds like something we should try to do at some point. But Moses himself has to rewrite the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 utterances, and in so doing, while inspired by God, Moses ultimately has to himself convert that inspiration into sacred work. Right? He has to take his experience with God and life, his history, his hope, his faith, his dreams, his moral instincts, and so on. And he has to couple that with everyone else's around him, hoping all along that God will approve of his work. This legacy that includes the true complexity of the golden calf episode, is very much our own in our own time. You see, we possess a dual challenge. And that dual challenge, just like it did for Moses and those who danced around the golden calf, and Aaron and Miriam, and our ancestors, and maybe even God's self, right? We all possess a dual challenge. One is to struggle with faith, and the other is to do our best to accomplish and celebrate faith. In this micro context, via our Shalosh Regalim, our 3 festivals, our pilgrimage festivals, right? Which are Sukkot, Pesach, or Pesach, Sukkot, and Shavuot. And we can add the rest of the holidays. Because in one way or another, we revisit the same kinds of concerns, the same struggles, the same opportunities, the same blessings, the same spiritual DNA. Our holy days are truly important for us. We really want to understand what it means to struggle with faith and to accomplish and celebrate that faith. Which brings us to another book we haven't said anything about yet, and that is the book of Devarim, Sefer Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy, and the very last parasha of Torah, V'zot HaBracha, has in it a very important hesped. Do you know what a hesped is? A eulogy, right? And so in a hesped for Moshe, God reminisces about Moses and Moshe's might and power before the eyes of Israel, and harkens back to the golden calf episode. Now, this strikes me as ironic, given how angry God was at Moshe at the time. But here, at the very end of the Torah, God praises Moshe for what might be his greatest act of leadership, which is not simply smashing the tablets, but smashing the tablets and redoing them. An act that would forever set up all of us who would follow Moshe and our ancestors for our own responsibility to renew Torah. Remember we talked in Parshat Tetzaveh how the priests spent time each day kindling the Ner Tamid, that the Ner Tamid was not eternal, was not continual, unless the priest did the daily work to keep that fire burning. We possess a similar responsibility here. The renewal of Torah doesn't happen by itself. We cannot count on God just to hand us a couple of tablets, a couple of luchot. We have to do the work of renewing our Torah ourselves, and more importantly, living out the laws and the legends and the legacies of Torah. And this is our responsibility. This is our opportunity. This is our blessing. According to the sages, just as it is time for Moshe's life to end, there comes a time for Torah to end. And we, going forward, must learn to write our own Torah. This is why we are commanded to write our own Torah. And in so doing, we are taught to interpret Torah's meaning vis-a-vis our experience in life, our history, the ups, the downs of our lives, the values of our ancestors, that we embrace ourselves, and the realities that mark our lives. And this, of course, is an opportunity that another holiday reminds us of. That is the holiday of Simchat Torah, right? Because on Simchat Torah, what do? We complete Deuteronomy and we roll into Genesis, renewing the cycle of Torah, recognizing and demonstrating that Torah not only ends, but it starts over again in Breshit. There's built-in renewal to the very cycle of our reading. And of course, at the beginning of Breshit, not only do we encounter the narrative of creation, a story of origin and renewal in one, but we also are called to do so, to witness this renewal, to witness this starting over with a sense of gratitude for our creative, interpretive legacy to sustain Torah in our lives. Wow, that's awesome. And in so doing, we strengthen the faith and understanding that we invest in our Torah, even if it's a struggle. We struggle, we embrace, we do our best to strengthen this faith and understanding and to invest it in our Torah and living out our Torah. and renewing and embracing Torah's relevance in our lives and applying Torah's wisdom meaningfully, purposely, transformationally in our lives, thereby making our world better for our effort. And lastly, for good measure, we get to review all over again this precious and blessed Jewish calendar, our holy days, and our spiritual DNA, which keeps us alive and keeps us inspired and keeps us driven to be this force for good, to be this people who matter in the world. And this is not only the purpose of our Torah, but the purpose of our holy days and the purpose of Shabbat. And so, Ki Tisah is amazing. It ties it all together. You don't have to go further. Shabbat Shalom. All right.
We turn to our Misha Berach. Before we play it, would it be possible that we read the names, Harry? Many thanks to Harry Warner. This is his maiden voyage. You're doing great, Harry.
Thank you. Yes. Let's move to the names.
All is well.
Let's see.
Who would have thought, Harry, that that tech captaining is a form of avodah? Avodah is sort of the spiritual practice of prayer.
Indeed.
Kind of couched in the ancient sacrifices by the priests in the temple. Clearly, there's a certain sacrifice of time and perhaps comfort when you're working in real time. So we're really pleased that you're part of this team. And
Yeah,
you take the
thank you.
time to settle in and feel good in your own skin, which you otherwise do. Hopefully, you will do so also as a tech captain. So
Definitely.
you're doing great.
Actually,
Kol hakavod.
this is a great day for this because this is actually my Torah portion from my bar mitzvah.
Ah,
So I was like, wait, this sounds familiar.
brilliant.
All right.
Well, many joyful returns of your bar mitzvah. Thanks for sharing. We're gonna have to have you read again someday.
Oh yes, for sure. Here we go.
All righty. So, in the spirit of renewal and the spirit of return, we know that we encounter those in our community in need of refuah shlema, renewal of body and spirit. And so we turn back to that responsibility week in and week out. Some people we see there week in and week out. Some people migrate off the list, as it were, and that's a positive most of the time. Sometimes it's not positive, but it becomes part of life, and that's complex. But in the meantime, we hope that our prayers do whatever they can to transform the condition of those in need of refuah shlema, right? So that they might find more wholeness, if not in body, then in spirit and soul. So let us mention their names, and then we'll pray with the Tweeties. Aviva Eliza, Laura Keena Aronson, Bethany Barrett, Barbara Berman, Harvey Bowler, Joan Bransfield, Fred Bueller, David Burchett, Fegasor Bakhaya, Carol Cohen, Lincoln Davis, Francine Fields, Debbie Frank, Eslyn Garb, Phyllis Goldblatt, Don Grandolfo, Mimi Harris, Toby Hartman, Ellen Hyman, Harold Katz, Jeffrey Krause, Anne-Marie Kuleza, Robert Langfelder, Roy Lloyd, Miriam Lyon, Gerald Marks, Jimmy Miller, Nikki Moulton, Moshe Ben Chava Venatan, Nicole Newcomb, Amber Noy, Don Olson, Mark Perlman, Gary Prees, Rodney Qualls, Shachar Bat Rachel, Robert Rochelle, David Rosenthal, Arthur Rousseau, Alan Sager, Casey Ciengo, Kristen Rouse Skinner, Tolly Stein, Michael Van Buren, Virginia Wharton, Nachum Feivel Ben Gedalia Umasha, Jacob Blake, Stephen Reese, Tiger Woods. Any additions, corrections, repronunciations?
From the YouTube comments, we have Phil Goldstucker, Kay Arkin, Kate Brissett, Margaret Frost, Becky Hanscom. We have Xander Schnitzer, Terry and Stuart Epstein, Gregory Sklavos, Rich Briscoe, Marcia Bren, Gary Davis, Judy Brachel, Bella Eisenstadt, Stacy Robinson, Mindy Jordan, Janice Leah Sakovsky, Norman and Susan Sikelski, the Bassa family, the Reynoso family, Maina Donaldson, Bonnie Fields Leibovich, Diane Jacol, Allison Good, Layla Holly, Isabel Weiss, Skyla Meadow, and Amy Ellis.
Refuah Shlema, renewal of body and spirit. Thank you, Harry. And we'll do Mishaberach prayer now.
Mishaberach Avotenu Lekor Havracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu Lekor Havracha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
It's been a while. Something like
Nice to see Rabbi Zedek. Shabbat Shalom to Rabbi Zedek and Karen and the rest of the family. Let us conclude our service, Cantor.
We invite you to rise physically or spiritually as we continue with the Aleinu. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו כהמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Reading from Mishkan Tefillah. The light of life is a finite flame, like the Shabbat candles. Life is kindled, it burns, it glows. It is radiant with warmth and beauty. But soon it fades, its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance, and our life burns down and gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen, yet we do not despair. For we are more than a memory, slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives, we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. So on this Shabbat Ki Tisa, we remember those who have died in recent days: Paul Bassa, Stephen Malden. In addition, we observe the following Jahrzeiten, the anniversaries of death, including Phyllis Albert, Alan L. Atkins, Leo Bloomberg, Julius Bridges, Joseph Brownstein, Sidney Cholden, Clarence Cole, Michael Federow, Sadie Goldie Feartag, Mr. Milton Foreman, Nathan Getzenberg, Rose Goldberg, Bernice Golden, Milton Hartock, Stephanie Hayes, Edith Hecht, Philip Karimer, Jenny Kaufman, Harriet Const, Samuel M. Lasky, Mrs. Lila Wenig Lechinger, Irving Levin, Albert Liebenstein, Fanny S. Loeb, Isidore Marks, Hyman Mendelson, Henry Morgan, Nancy Lowe Murphy, Marlene Necklace, Stanley Owen, Alvin D. Rose, Erna Ulrich Rosenberger, Henry Saltiel, Herman Schipper, Louis Shapira, Sarah Solomon, Fanny Van Emden, Bernard Yeager, Nathan Usen, Edith Zanville. Any corrections, repronunciations?
And from the congregation, we have David Levine, Ava Levine, Stephen Malden, which was said in recent days, and Marcel Mons.
Thank you for those additions, Harry. Cantor, will you lead us in Kaddish Yatom?
It would be an honor.
We rise in body and or spirit, or as is our custom. Cantor, please.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ba'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon u'v'yomachon u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehe shlama rabba Yehe shmei Rabbah mevarach, leolam almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalal shmei dekudisha b'rihu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma, v'imru, Amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom bimramav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all of you bereaved among us, and let us all say, Amen. Announcements, 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 which I don't ever get to sing because, well, I'm not at camp right now. But first of all, I want to reiterate our deep gratitude to Joy Getzenberg, who chanted Torah so beautifully, Richard Weber, her brother, her sister-in-law, Karen Lang. Their offering is done in memory of their beloved father, Nathan Getzenberg, and we're very grateful. The Tikkun Olam Book Club online, the Why Not, a program by the Ishas in which we're going to do a virtual wine tasting. It should be very fun. Admitting Our Mortality, a 3-part series. I think it will be quite wonderful. Tanya Larson, who is one of our congregants, it will be leading this 3-part series. It will also have some clergy involvement. What Am I Missing? Rabbi Joseph Edelheit. Class starting March the 22nd. And our virtual second night Seder, hold the date, more information coming, Sunday, March the 28th, as well as our Women and Wisdom series, also sponsored by the Ishas. And of course, Pekuach HaNefesh, our blood drive, Sunday, April the 18th. Please sign up. The need is greater. It's actually always great. And it's a mitzvah, Pekuach HaNefesh, saving a life.
Pekuach Nefesh, giving life. Yay to the Ishas. Kol kavod, rolling. How, that was a good move. Good dance. Good dancing. We should have like the Rikude Am, the dance of the people, as our closing experience here. How did class go on Tuesday?
It was fabulous. Many thanks to Heather Waslu and all the Ishas. It was quite a lovely group of people, and we were grateful for everybody's involvement.
Kol kavod to Heather and you and everybody else that participated, and that's just amazing. Well done. All right, how about Eli Eli to close?
Sounds like a beautiful closing.
Eli, I'm sorry. Eli, Eli, shelo yigamer leolam, hachol v'chayam, rishru shel hamayim, berakat shamayim, tevilat ha'adam, achol v'chayam, rishrush shel hamayim, berach hashamayim, tfilat ha'adam. Oh God, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May Adonai bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'huneka.
May God smile upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha. Shalom.
May God lift up your face, that God might shine in you and shine through you, and give you the gift of wholeness and peace.
Amen.
Ken Yehi Ratzon.
Shabbat Shalom Lekulam, Sabbath of peace, and Shabbat Umevorach, Shabbat of blessing. And thank you very much for joining us. Richard and Karen, Joy, thanks again. Harry and Rob, thank you. Cantor, and many thanks to you as well. And Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Rabbi.
Laila Tov.